Welcome back to another episode of the Align for Success podcast. It is a transformational Tuesday. It is a tune in Tuesday. And it is a terrific Tuesday because you're about to fall in love with my special guest for today. I am telling you, if this is your first time tuning into your friend Deborah Deras' Align for Success podcast, this is not my podcast. This is your podcast. I created this podcast with the intention for you to be able to have the inner tools, the success strategies to be able to align for success, not pushing and pulling, hustling and getting things done, but actually flowing and aligning and allowing your life to fall into place with ease and with grace. Why? Because you're going to have the information, the insight, the strategies from all of these wonderful guests that I interview. These are my friends, my sisters, my brothers, my mentors, people like today's guest that inspire me to live an even more aligned and even more fulfilled life. And that's what I'm here to share with you. And if you would like to share this podcast out with your people, feel free to do that. We have a saying here at Align for Success, which is sharing is caring. What would the world be like if everyone was aligned for success? They didn't have a job, but they had a joy. If they woke up every day, not, oh my God, I have to go to work, but thank God I'm aware, awake, and aligned. That's my intention. That's why I do this all the time. And that's not all. I have some announcements to make before I interview my guest. Super exciting. So, what's the first exciting news? Oh, exciting news number one. We are now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and I just checked 3 minutes ago. We are on Google Podcasts, right? So whatever is your preferred method, if you're not into the video thing. By the way, I love the video thing, which is this live stream, because you can ask questions. This isn't just me talking and interviewing our magnificent guests. You're able to ask questions. You're able to comment, get a shout out. I feature you. This is an interactive podcast. But I understand some of you prefer your podcast experience to be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. Not to worry. You can access it right there. Another big thing, hot off the press. I know some of you have been telling me you want to be here, you want to watch every episode, but you forget. You get busy. Life happens. Well, now we have a text reminder system. So you can text 1-866-409-4875, keyword align. It's right on the screen, and I'll go ahead and put it in the show notes. You text the word align, and guess what? You'll be reminded each week, right at 6:15 Pacific time, so that you do not miss a live show. We only have about 8 more weeks of live shows till we go on hiatus because I'm about to start the book tour, the Align for Success book tour. Very exciting. So I want to make sure that you're with me. Every single person I bring on the show has a special message for you, whether it's about health, relationships like today, ooh la la. Anybody want more intimacy in your relationship? You better get them. Get them out of the kitchen, get them out of the living room, because we are going to have a special guest to talk about that. But one more announcement. So I want to also let you know that for those of you that are feeling stuck and stagnant, your ego that's not your amigo is sabotaging you and you're not as productive as you want to be, I have created a video on 4 steps to increase your productivity that will help you align for success. You can download that right on my website, which is my name. You know my name, www.deborahderas.com. Yes, you can get it right there. All right. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce my special guest, and her name is Marie Elizabeth. And she believes a great relationship starts with you. She also believes that when you prioritize both growth and pleasure, you can have success without sacrificing connection. As a relationship alchemist and speaker, Marie Elizabeth Molly helps individuals, couples deepen love and connection in their relationships. Drawing on her master's in Chinese medicine and over 20 years of client work, she teaches people how to be authentic instead of shrinking themselves to fit in. And let me tell you, I've seen her in action and she's so amazing. And you're going to be thanking me because she's here today because she is awesome. Please help me welcome Miss Marie Elizabeth. Yeah.
Best intro ever. Thank you.
So true. You're just, every time I find out another thing about you, you're even more magnificent and more amazing than I previously thought, right?
Thank you. Patrick says the same thing. My partner says the same thing. Even after 6 years, almost 6 years together, something will fall out of my mouth. And he's like, what? I didn't know that about you. You know, there's still layers.
Oh, by the way, I'm trilingual. Or by the way, I swim with the
Right.
sharks. Or by the way.
Yeah, things like that.
You are truly a special and incredible person. And we first met at Agape International Spiritual Center, right? In class together. And we instantly at the break room were like, South American connection.
Exactly. Like, oh, fellow Latina. Oh, hi. Oh my God.
Latinas unite. So, you know, before we get into your work, which is very important for all of us as a relationship alchemist, I just want to hear about you and your journey of alignment, because I know you're on the spiritual path as I am, as we all are, whether we're aware of it or not. But what sparked your evolution on this path, and really the importance of alignment and being in integrity with your soul?
Well, I have long been interested in spiritual teachings, spiritual books. I started reading Zen in particular in high school and really resonated with the Eastern philosophy, that kind of way of looking at things. And so I ended up becoming an East Asian studies major in college, and then ended up becoming an acupuncturist when I studied Chinese medicine. But these days, how I've also been meditating for about 30 years or so. So part of my way of staying aligned is through meditation, which really is for me about simply being with myself. I go through different cycles where sometimes I'll do a sitting meditation that's silent and I'm just being with my breath. Sometimes, right now, I'm in a phase where I'm enjoying listening to these audio tracks that are like binaural beats and this and that, and they do stuff to your brain that's really cool. And so kind of that's the meditation I'm doing right now. So I like to cycle. Sometimes I do Joe Dispenza guided meditations. You know, I like to rotate. And in terms of aligning and continuing to align, I'm still working through my very high-powered, perfectionistic, driven upbringing, you know? And so I'm still in a process of learning, how do I choose alignment over grind? How do I find the flow instead of trying to make stuff happen, you know? That is an edge that I still work on daily in my life. And I think that'll always be the case.
Me too. And it's a beautiful dance. It's like a cha-cha.
It is.
Like
It is like a cha-cha.
And then I'll take a step back and then I'll be like, boom, pause.
Cha-cha-cha.
I mean, for a long time, I would feel very, very guilty, like to go paddleboarding in the middle of the day on a Friday. And now I see all of the benefits of this self-care that come with, like, I'll come back to my office and I have all these calls for gigs where if I was grinding and working, nothing would be happen. But when I let go of that holding on, so it is a journey. And it is, I'm glad you brought that up, because some people think, oh, well, some people are just meditating people and they're just like that. It's not true. Everyone's on a continuum.
Exactly. And I really believe in the power of practice, whatever your practice is, you know, whether your practice could be exercise. Like, I don't have prescription on which practice you have to do, but any practice that brings you into the present moment, that quiets your, you know, that lets all the busyness fall back a bit, is a useful practice, because anytime you're able to come into the present and be with yourself with less noise, or at least the noise can be there, but it can be in the background where you can be focused and with yourself. That's when alignment happens. That's when you realize things. That's when lightning bolts of inspiration happen, right? That's when you go, oh my God, this thing I've been trying to make happen, you know what? It's not happening because it's not supposed to happen. I'm going to actually take my attention off of that and put it over here, right? But until we take those practices and take those moments to step back and actually make room, that's a receptivity. Until we learn to receive, we can burn a lot of energy trying to do stuff that and force things that's not really aligned.
I love that. Oh my God, there's so much wisdom in everything you just said. I was like, what do I even comment on? When we're in that state of flow, I call it the divine downloads. Like when I'm in Shavasana, laying on the paddleboard and the water's rocking me and I'm literally almost asleep, like in such a theta state of consciousness, just I get these answers like to questions I didn't even know I had. It's just such a beautiful practice. And I love it how you gave people permission to know that alignment and presence isn't always stillness. You could be moving, but if you're in that oneness. And then the third thing that you said that sparked the next question is, if something is not moving forward, it may not be time. You may need to put it away. And I honestly, and since the pandemic started, kind of had to put away the relationship section, which is really good that we're going to be talking about this. I was in a relationship last year with a medical professional, and it was very, very, very misaligned and also stressful. And it was like such a relief to get out of that relationship. And
that must have been hard.
Wasn't ready to get into another one, but it's something that I know that my soul yearns for connection and to sharing my life with specifically a male. I would like a male partner. Not to get married, but to play and watch sunsets and drink wine. And so I hear that you are a relationship alchemist. So tell us what that means and how people like me that are wanting to be in a relationship or people that are in a relationship and want to go deeper can get help by you.
Thank you. Yeah, relationships. So I call myself a relationship alchemist because the word alchemy points to the deeper magical work of alignment. It's actually, for me, very connected to alignment because alchemy is, sometimes my camera can't find me. So I will move back and forth sometimes till my camera will focus, which it's not doing. Okay, so alchemy is on the psycho-spiritual domain. It's taking all these raw materials, the hurts, the challenges, the patterns, the places where we tend to leave ourselves or we tend to not be connected to our best self, so to speak, to use that term, to take all of that and accept it and integrate it so that you can be a whole person who's really in connection with your light and your shadow, but who is accepting of herself or himself, who has self-compassion. Because through that alchemy, through accepting and integrating the challenges that have presented themselves in the past and that present themselves in the present, through accepting and integrating those, you're more, again, able to meet the present moment. You can flow with things as they're happening. You can see more clearly what's happening. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my camera to focus here. There we go. You can see more clearly what's happening because there's less noise in the way. So when you combine doing your own practices that keep your head clear with alchemy, which keeps the gunk in your system from getting too overpowering, both of those help you show up to relationships in such a way that is inviting, is magnetic, attracting, right? And you can trust that you're actually attracting people from present time. Because what happens a lot, as we've all experienced, myself included, it's very often we attract somebody and we're like, oh my God, this is so great, blah, blah, blah. And then after a while, it's like, oh no, I've been dating my mother, or I've been dating my father,
Right.
Like we repeat patterns because they were encoded when we were really little. So the alchemy part of relationship alchemy speaks to the deep work that's necessary to get free. to be liberated from all that and have a relationship that is based in present time, and that's not just a reenactment of the past.
I love it. I don't, so in the book Align for Success that I'm writing, the Align is an acronym, and the A is for awareness. The L
Mhm.
is for letting go. The I is for the inner work that you mentioned. G is for grounding, like literally grounding, and N is for saying no to what is not in
Oh,
alignment for your highest good. So
yes.
you basically just summed everything up in your
That
description of alchemy. And to be honest
yes.
with you, I'm still processing it. But what I hear you saying is that alchemy, when you're the process of alchemy is being aware of the old patterns that have you choosing people based on like wound mates rather than on
Yes.
alignment mates. Wound mates
Yes.
instead of alignment, because when you're awake and aware and
That's right.
aligned, you're gonna notice it. That signal will be there, right? Am I
That
right?
right, that
'Cause I
signal
don't
is
know.
there, and you actually attract different people because your vibration is different,
How do you do
right?
that?
Well, how do you do that? So we're always, as you know, we're always emitting a signal
Yes.
of some kind. You know,
Right.
we all we our field, each person's field goes out about 6 feet in each direction.
Oh wow.
So anytime we're walking around, people can feel us before we actually get close to them. And even if they don't know that they are doing that, I believe we feel each other whether or not we know we're feeling each other. And, sometimes you get kind of close to someone and it's like, ooh, that feels good. Like Patrick, for example, my partner, he just feels good to me in my field. He always did before we were even a couple. It was like, oh, this person just feels good. I
He
like
has such
being
positive
near him.
energy.
He
He
does.
lights
He
up
has
the
great
room.
energy.
He really
He
does.
really does. Yeah. And so the more you cultivate and learn to, so it's a two-part thing as I see it. One is the acceptance, the self-compassion of being human and having stuff.
Right.
It's not about pretending it's not there. It's not about rejecting it. It's not about disowning it. It's about actually integrating. That's why I use the word integration, because it's really about integrating all the parts of you so that the beacon you send out is clear. Otherwise, what happens as we're emitting who we are out into the world is the frequency can get kind of muddy because there's like interference on the line
Right.
from unhealed wounds, things we haven't dealt with. Resentment is a big one that tends to create static. Um, and so
And mixed
by
messages, right?
And mixed
Sometimes.
messages, absolutely. Like we can be saying, "Oh yes, I want to see you again" with our words, but our body is like, you know, that's a mixed message. So learning to really bring your body language, your message in alignment with your words is big. And specifically, so I have a program coming up for folks who are dating and want to date, who haven't started yet or who are actively dating. And for them, I'm going to be really focusing on how do we put the past to rest, seeing the patterns that have been in play.
Right.
For example, my old pattern used to be because my father wasn't around much the first few years of my life because he was a medical doctor. He was studying, he was a resident and an intern, and he just wasn't, he'd come home to sleep and go back to the hospital. They run those people ragged, right?
Right.
So I got encoded with the experience that my dad wasn't around a lot. And I didn't even learn English till I was 3 because of that. So I tended to attract men who lived in other places, who traveled a lot for a living, who were emotionally unavailable,
Ah.
because there was a certain kind of encoding in my system that was very comfortable with absence
Ah.
and longing.
At a
I love,
subconscious level.
I
Right.
love longing. Yeah, at a
Ah.
subconscious level. And then if somebody was really close, I'd get a little itchy. I'd be like, enough,
Oh, you're
too
suffocating
much.
me. You
Right? Like,
live in the
it's
same
enough.
city.
Like, oh, it's too much. And so I really had to do some deep work to come to a place where I could welcome having somebody nearby and seeing the same person day after day and clear my stuff so I can be excited to see them again and all that, where I didn't need to rely on distance to make the heart grow fonder, but I could have the heart be fond in closeness.
Oh,
So it's a
wow.
personal example of what I'm talking about. So in this program for the folks who are dating or wanting to date, we're going to first look at putting the past to rest, forgiving ourselves for any patterns that have been operating, really deciding how do I want to move? How do I want to show up in relationship from here forward? And then starting to build the skills and the practices that will allow that to be the case, to move into relationship from a new place, to attract from a new place, to set better boundaries, to say no, say yes when you mean no and when you mean yes, which isn't always as easy as you think.
No, it is
Yeah,
not easy as you think. That's why N is for no, and I
exactly.
learned that in the webinar that I took from you, because oftentimes we say no, but then our behavior and our boundaries are allowing things that we said no to, and it's very confusing. So what I hear you
Right.
saying is the inner work process that you coach people through, I said through in the program, is to have them align their vibrational frequency in congruency to what their true heart's desire.
With what they actually want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's the static that tends to happen is
Right.
we have this idea of what we want, but then we have all this unresolved stuff that gums up the signal, that kind of
Ah.
blocks the signal. And so the more we can do the practices to clear those out, the more clear our beacon or signal will be, and I'm not talking about you have to get to some perfected state. Some people have developed a belief like, oh, I got to do all this work on myself before I can date.
Mhm.
I don't actually ascribe to that. I believe that relationships
We'd be
are meant to be.
99.
What's that?
I'd be like 99. Okay, I'm ready to date now. I'm aligned.
I know exactly. Like I'm finally aligned. Right. I don't think we
I have
ever
no
reach
teeth, but I'm
perfection.
aligned.
I have no teeth, but I'm hot. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we ever reach perfection. And to me, relationship, dating, practice, it's all practice. It's
Right.
all practice. So if you can approach dating as practice, if you can approach relationship as practice, that reveals you to yourself. That's kind of what they're there for. Sure, there's the fun of being able to hang out and watch the sunset together and have some wine and all of that. And nothing shows you who you are more quickly than somebody you love who's in your face, either liking what you're doing or not liking what you're doing or doing what you want or not doing what you want. How do you react to that? All that stuff, right? It's a very powerful growth path, the
It's
path of true
literally like
love.
a mirror, right?
It is
It's
a
like
mirror,
they are
literally.
you're like any relationship I've ever been in has been always a blessing because they were a master teacher and they were reflecting
Absolutely.
to me, whether I liked it or not, how I was projecting into the world, or their perception and
That's
how I was
right.
projecting. But some of it was very
Yeah,
right, like my being impatient. I'm like, yeah, you're right about that. But I'm with you, so I'm going to
exactly.
be a little bit patient. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. And so the more we can learn to approach our relationships like that, where what am I seeing? Whether or not I like the reflection, what is being reflected to
Ah,
me here? Is that something for me to work with, or is it a projection, right? Because sometimes they're seeing things accurately and sometimes they're projecting their own stuff, right?
mm.
So there's a discernment level that needs to be developed around, is this mine or not? Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
totally, totally.
Yeah. So that's what's coming up soon. And I also work with a lot of folks who are in relationships and that's a kind of a different conversation, right? That's how do you handle the day-to-day stuff in such a way that you stay connected, you uh even if you have a conflict, that you resolve the conflict in such a way that you get more connected through the process, that you stay connected even while you're fighting. I mean, Patrick and I have a pretty playful uh, we have a pretty playful relationship, and we've learned to kind of risk turning to play in the middle of a tough moment. Not, we don't always do it, but very often one or the other of us will use a funny voice or say something, we can hear ourselves thinking, and it's like, oh my God, I sound like a 5-year-old right now. Well, we might be like, meh, 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 and then we start laughing and the whole thing shifts, right? So it's learning to bring in play, learning to be very forgiving of yourself and of them. Like, we're all human. We have this growth, we have this place we want to get to, we want to express our best selves. And to me, that best self is a whole self. It's not just, a thin slice of positivity above a bunch of unexamined stuff. That's not your best self. So I'm about that deep work.
I love it. And that is what the Align for Success community is about, doing the inner work for the outer results. Not like when I lose weight, then I'm going to meet someone, or when I get a boob job, I'm going to meet someone.
Right.
I mean, that all the external stuff that, especially in a place like Southern California, could be prevalent. What our work is that inner work. It's excavating all of those limiting beliefs, putting them up to the surface, looking at them non-judgmentally, so that we can be available for that fulfilling relationship, where that we can have disagreements, which I'd love to learn how to do productively, that actually get you closer from that. It's not yelling, it's understanding, right? The other person's perspective and how they perceive you, or how they perceive their worldview that is not your worldview.
Exactly. And how do we stay present enough, even in the middle of conflict, to do that, to stay curious and interested in the other person's point of view. And part of how we do that is recognizing when we're not able to. So there is such a thing as we get flooded with emotions sometimes. For me, it's like a heat that comes upward. We'll be talking, everything's fine. But if I get flooded, what I experience is this heat that comes up from my center. It's as if a pilot light just got hit with gas and goes in, like, whoosh, into flame. It's literally a whoosh that I feel inside. And I know that after that happens, I need to be very careful what I say, because I might say anything,
Right.
And so what I do at that point, when I feel that whoosh and I'm about to go into serious fighting, is I'll take a time out. I think as adults, we don't take time outs enough. People use them with their kids, but when you're flooded, nothing else useful can happen in the conversation until you calm down.
Right.
So at that point, I'll say, hey, I'm getting too fiery right now. I need a break. I need to take a time out. I need to, recenter myself. I'll be back. And I've found that to be a super effective tool to keep conflicts productive.
Yeah. So then you don't say something that could permanently harm the relationship. I've done that before, where in the heat
Who
of the
hasn't?
moment, my Scorpio self tears up a picture of us or something like that.
Totally. I have a Scorpio rising, so I have that capacity
so
too.
I
know.
I was just going to ask you, what are the biggest mistakes that people make in relationship that cause them, like, to lose the magic and spark? Because your expertise is not just getting in the relationship, but once you are in the satisfying, fulfilling relationship. Let me clarify, not just the relationship, because my death is mejor se queda sola con mala acompañada. Better to stay alone than in bad company. And I agree with him. And that's why I've been super single for quite a long time, like 11 years. Like, my mom says not super single, but I mean, I really feel I have, purposefully, intentionally, because I want to align. And I've made a lot of mistakes, but what causes people to lose that spark once they're in a long-term relationship?
Well, there's a few things. One is when you let unspoken resentments build up, that will start to fray the connection. That will start to destroy the connection. Because all of a sudden, anytime you're interacting with each other, there's all this stuff that's not being said underneath. That's a wedge between you.
Right.
The other thing is to take each other for granted. I feel like I have this saying where, it's like you start to see your spouse like the furniture, and you're looking around your apartment. It's like, oh, there's the couch, there's my spouse, there's the kitchen, but there's no, they've just become part of the furniture. And this is a living, breathing, mysterious person. You may think you know exactly what's going to come out of their mouth. You may think you know their every reaction, but you don't. You're actually selling them short and yourself short by treating them like a couch, or like just another part of the furniture in the home. And so I'm really, really about cultivating curiosity and
Ah,
keeping curiosity active through a relationship. I still love discovering how Patrick thinks about things. And he'll say something, and it goes for him too with me. It's like, what? You think that? And to me, there's just always so much richness to discover when you
right.
remember that people are infinite
Right.
inside. And
Oh,
all
that's a
you
good
know is
point.
right. All you know is the surface. But if you just label them like, oh, yeah, I don't want to say that because I know they're going to react and blah, blah, blah. It's like, hey, give them a chance,
Right.
and maybe they're reacting because your resentment is coming through your words, so
Right.
you need to work on your resentment instead of just blowing them off.
Right.
Right.
Oh my God. What you said is it's so profound because I was married and together with my husband for 11 years. And I think the biggest reason that we divorced was because of unspoken resentment. And just,
Yeah, it's an
I mean,
intimacy
that was
killer.
probably the simplified version of it. Like he didn't say things and
Yeah,
I didn't say things, but the tension was in the room and it was just unresolved. And eventually there's going to be a
yeah,
volcano, right? That's going to
exactly.
explode,
That always happens.
right? There's
Yeah,
going to be a moment, a pinnacle moment that's going to it's going to create a liberation opportunity, and it's either you choose to stay connected or you choose to transcend and your relationship evolves into a different way. Like we're friends, I'm friends with his new wife, I know you're friends with your former husband too. It's like
yeah,
they
yeah.
invited me to the hospital when he had a heart attack, and
Oh,
included me in that prayer
oh,
experience. Yeah, it was just really beautiful how our relationship transcended, and the wonderful gift that he has a son that's now 10 years old that he wouldn't have had if we stayed together. So
amen.
I really believe that that's one of the reasons. Like for like I everything is divine order. Every
Yeah,
relationship has a lesson, right? And it's what you do is so important because I feel like, especially with the pandemic, the biggest cause of depression was people feeling disconnected. And
yeah.
that's what you
Isolation.
do. You help people connect
Yeah.
with themselves so they can connect with another. Is that true?
That's beautifully said. Yes. Because I think that's really the root of the disconnection we feel with other people. I mean, obviously right now
Ah,
we can't physically be in each other's spaces as much right now.
right.
But the root of the disconnection we feel with other people is our disconnection from our true selves, from ourselves. Like we just haven't gone deep enough to get to know who we really are. And many of us are not even really sure we like ourselves. And because of that, it just makes connection hard. There's just so much again, there can be so many barriers in the way of getting to true connection. And for me, the biggest game changer in terms of how I show up in relationships and the kind of partners I attracted, the biggest game changer for me was when I really grounded, here we are with the G in a line, grounded myself in self-acceptance, self-compassion, allowing, recognizing that there are times where I really am on and feel great, and there are times when I don't. And how do I be nice to myself when I'm not feeling great? How do I rest? How do I change, adjust, actually just make room for me to be up, down, however which way without force.
Mm. I really like that explanation because a lot of relationship coaches, and trust me, I've been to Not every program. I've been to 2 or 3 programs, and they always would talk about self-love, self-love, self-love. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I love myself, I love myself." But it's different than to say self-acceptance, because I think that's a little bit more specific in that my brain needs to hear that. Because self-love, when I think of self-love practices, I'm like, if I love myself, I'll eat vegetables. If I love myself, I'll wash my face at night, I'll floss, like things like
Yeah,
that. But
totally.
self-acceptance is accepting and unconditionally loving yourself,
Yeah.
flaws and all. Because if you don't love
Yeah.
yourself, flaws and all, how can another person?
Well, it makes it really hard. Like, if because then they're going to tend to try to compensate, or you're going to also be asking them to compensate and love you for you, in a sense. Like, what am I trying
Be
to
your
say?
surrogate
It
love.
it just it just breeds codependency, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Right, right,
Right?
right.
So if you're asking somebody to do for you something you're not willing to do for yourself, it breeds
Ooh,
dependency.
that's good. We do that though. We do
We
that.
do.
We expect people to do for us, but what we won't do for ourselves.
Yeah,
Ah,
all the
I want
time.
you unconditionally love me. Well, do you unconditionally love yourself?
Well, how are you when you mess up? How do you treat yourself? Like, and you want me to do what? I mean, real talk, right? It's like it starts at home.
So that's
That's why I
beautiful.
say a great relationship starts with you. Because, and I don't think you have to be perfect. I don't think you have to
Right,
be, I'm not perfect. I
right,
can be cranky,
right.
like stuff comes up and, but we work through it. And Patrick has stuff that comes. Just last night, we were having this funny conversation that I posted about today. So I have permission to talk about it. And we were talking about, we both have a playful way of bringing in play at moments that where tension might be getting high. Then one of us will make a playful move, and then he began this, I want to say, like 5 to 7 minute monologue of his inner dialogue when we're beefing, and it's hysterical. And he was like, "Yeah, sometimes we have a thing, and then you go to bed, and I'm still up here like, I'm still mad. I'm still stuck in it. My fire is up. What's happening?" She's already gone to bed with her emotionally agile ass. She's fine. She's done. She's over it. And I'm still up here stewing. I got to up my game, and he just kind of like enacted this hilarious inner dialogue that he goes through. And I mean, I just was cracking up. I was so delighted to just get a peek into the window of
Right,
his mind, in that moment. And so I think you want to allow each other to be imperfect. If I were tight, I would have been like, well, I might have tried to school him there about something or another. But I just found it delightful and funny because I'm not trying to be his teacher. I'm not trying to be, I just delight in him. And to me, that's just a fun space to be in relationship from.
right,
What about, can we cultivate delight? Can we
right.
cultivate curiosity? Can we cultivate generosity where, I can text Patrick and be like, "Hey, I left the package in the trunk of my car because it was too heavy to carry upstairs. Would you bring it upstairs?" And he's psyched to do it. Or vice versa. Like he'll ask me for something and I'm happy to give it to him because I feel generous toward him. Those are the qualities to cultivate: curiosity, self-awareness, generosity, delight, play, and when you have a good foundation in those qualities and you have some skill. I teach a lot of communication skills, as you know, because you came to that workshop. um, and you have the skill to navigate when things aren't feeling the way you want them to feel. That together, the skill to navigate the tough stuff, plus an emphasis on cultivating joy, fun, play, delight, interest, curiosity, uh, surprise, being
Mhm.
surprised by them, letting yourself be surprised by someone you love. uh, to me, that's a magic recipe for having relationships stay juicy and close and fun and loving.
I love it. I love it. And for someone like my mom, like I'd love to hear more about your course too, because like my mom, her sweetheart passed away of COVID in December, and
Oh
I know it's so heartbreaking, and they were together for like 7 years, so they were like
my
married, right?
God.
They had just moved into a bigger house so that she could have more room, and she was saying to
Oh,
me, she was like saying that she thought she had lost her joy because she didn't know if she was gonna have another love. She's in her, mid-70s or something. She's like, "Is this it?"
yeah.
Because like her mom, but that's like you said, a limiting thing because her mom, when she was like 60, said, "Well, I guess that's it," and then decided not to date again. So I don't
Oh,
even think that's
wow.
her belief, but her mother's belief. Is this it for me? And then my mom's like, "Do I need to spend $10,000 to hire a matchmaker?" And she's like in this
Mm.
intimacy course. I was thinking of
Oh,
recommending
cool.
recommending her to your course too. I can't remember the person, Hendrix, somebody about
Oh,
intimacy,
Gay Hendrix is
Gay Hendrix
wonderful.
and
Yeah.
relationships and things like that.
Oh,
But
that's great.
do
Yeah,
do you
she's in good
believe
hands there. She's in good hands with Gay
but do
Hendrix.
you believe that people, like her, people like me that have been single for 12 years, that, like, there's hope for people like us to have that alchemy to be in a relationship again? Or
I
are some
do.
people
I
just meant to
mean,
be alone?
I really think it's a choice.
Mhm.
I mean, I thought I was meant to be alone. Relationships were really hard for me. They always felt like sandpaper. And
Mm.
being alone was so much easier because I grew up an only child. I knew how to be alone. I
Ah.
just didn't know how to be with people. So I had to learn how to be with people. And it doesn't happen overnight necessarily, but if your desire, like I really, really trust and believe in desire.
Mm.
And and so getting clear about what your desire really is and where there might be a mismatch. It's like, oh, I really, really want a relationship, but I'm not willing to compromise. I'm not, I don't like compromise anyway. We can have a conversation about compromise if you want, but that wasn't a good example. But it's like, I really, really want a relationship, but I really love living by myself and setting my own schedule. It's if we have that kind of back and forth inside the cha-cha, if we have a cha-cha, if we have a cha-cha inside, again, it makes the signal not so clear that we send out.
Ah.
And um, and I think, when we're single for a long time, we get a little set in our ways. We might have to do a little extra work to it's like building the muscle of flexibility again,
Right.
because we can get a little locked in our preferences. I think the other thing that's really magical for being able to meet the right person is, so we have our preferences, our typical preferences, the people, we look at them and it's like, oh, I want that, right? That person doesn't necessarily know how to have a great relationship. So when we go through the door of preferences or looks, or, they make the right amount of money, they check the
I'm
boxes
just
on the
focused on, like,
list.
non-snoring. That's my
Yeah,
purpose.
that's
It's
that's
not even
good.
it's not even
That's
monetary. Do you
that is
do you
so
not
good.
snore? I love you.
Yeah, I love you. We can hang,
I know.
Yeah, it's good to keep it at that level. Like I also go for non-snoring, but we sleep, Patrick sometimes snores and our dogs sometimes snore. So I sleep with
Oh my
a white noise, I sleep with a machine that makes noise to combat that. But anyway, when we I think when we this is the difference between sort of dating from the perspective of alignment. When we're talking about aligning for success,
Mhm,
it's less about the checklist
mhm.
and more about how you feel with somebody.
Mm.
When you're not looking, like for example, many years ago, I had a boyfriend I got a boyfriend who I went to some event at somebody's house. And at that time I was meditating a lot. So I was very sensitized. And I could just feel something in the corner. I could feel a disturbance in the force in the corner of the room. It's like there's something over there for me. And I look over and it's this young guy, like, at least 10 years younger than me. And I'm like, really? That?
La la, ooh la la, Marie
Really?
Elizabeth.
But of course, like I had to talk to him because my field was like
Right.
that. And we ended up dating for like 9 months,
Ooh la la.
ooh la la, so I really trust and train people to feel, to be grounded in their own body. When you're
Uh-huh.
embodied, you can tell when someone feels good to you and when they don't.
Vibes don't
And
lie, but we don't listen to them
vibe,
when we're not
amen.
aligned. Yeah.
That's it. Vibes don't lie.
Vibes don't lie.
And we do a lot of convincing of
Yes,
ourselves,
we do.
or going from the checklist. We go from the outside in instead of from the inside out. And to me, the best
Ah,
relationships happen from the inside out.
I love it. And that's the alchemy, going from
That's the
the
alchemy.
inside out. I
Yeah,
love it.
that's the
So, how can
magic.
people find out about your upcoming program? I want to find out about your program.
You bet.
And yeah, and stay in
Yeah.
touch with you.
Well, you can go to relationshipalchemy.com.
Okay.
And on the programs page, it's listed there. The one for singles is called Relationship Ready. And that's what's coming up in September. Starts on September 7th. Actually, it starts early bird. I'm doing a workshop on the 31st on
Oh, wow.
specifically dating in the pandemic, like what's
I was
happening.
going to ask you, how do people even date in the bed? I don't want to date anybody. Germs.
Oh, I know, exactly. So
Don't
how
breathe
do
on
you
me.
how do you work through that? Yeah, and like what are the boundaries you need to have in place to feel safe to take things to the next step, and being
Right.
clear about that instead of just being like a no. How do you create enough structure for yourself that you can feel safe to move forward with folks?
Mm.
To me, I'm not an
And
online
that's
dating
August
expert.
31st?
August 31st is the early bird. So the people who register for the workshop by the 22nd can
Uh-huh.
attend this early bird workshop.
And when is the
Um,
22nd? What day? Is that
that's a
Tuesday?
good question. I don't know.
Oh, I
Yeah,
know.
yes, I think. Wait.
I know because I have a calendar. That's Sunday, this Sunday.
Yeah,
So
by
people
this
with
Sunday.
okay, just for those of you that are listening on the replay too, Sunday, August 22nd would be the last day to register to get the bonus of how to date during
Yeah,
a pandemic, which we all need to know.
exactly.
Okay, good.
Exactly. You can register after that date, but if
Okay.
you want to attend the masterclass, that's that date.
Oh, cool.
That's the deadline for that.
And
And
is it a course or group coaching, and how long is
it's a
it?
group. Yeah. So Relationship Ready, it's 6 weeks. It's
Oh,
small
good.
group coaching. So we have
Perfect.
a coaching call, coaching and training. I'll be doing training on the call as well once a week. And
Ooh.
then we'll have a Facebook group. We'll have other resources that I'll share. One of the bonuses is a friend of mine who's an amazing healer is going to take everyone through a group ritual of putting the past to rest, to help them on the energetic level and the
Ooh
subtle
la la.
level to be ready to move forward.
Yes, like clear it
So
out.
that's a bonus. Yep.
Oh, that's
That's a
cool.
bonus that I'm offering, or that she's offering. I've asked her to do. And um, I'm excited about it.
So it's 6 weeks and it's on what day?
It's on Tuesdays. The calls will meet on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific.
Oh,
And we also, like, our graduation call will happen on a Saturday. There's another bonus I might throw in that's also probably going to be on a Saturday. So usually extra stuff will happen Saturday morning, but our weekly call will be on Tuesdays at 1.
and are they an hour
And
or how long are
they're
they?
90 minutes. 90
Okay.
minutes. Yeah, because I like to fit some coaching in there. So I do training and then I take questions and coach, uh, as part of it.
Very
and
cool.
and and what's great about working as in a group, so what's great about having community when you're trying to shift these patterns, is that as you try stuff, you have folks to celebrate with. You can come in the Facebook and be like, oh my god, that totally didn't work, or whoa, that was really great. And people will celebrate you. And so I really, and I like it, the coaching in a group. What I love about that I find really powerful in comparison to one-on-one. What I love about one-on-one is that it's completely customized.
Right.
We're just on your timetable, whatever it is that's up, we work with it. What's great about group is that sometimes somebody else in the group might ask a question that you didn't even think of, but my
Right.
answer to their question unlocked your thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Totally.
that's the magic and the
It's very
synergy that
magical. I
happens
prefer
in
group
a
coaching
group.
as a
Do
coach.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that people get healing from each other, and I'm like a
from each other.
facilitator and a guide, and I allow the magic and the synergy to happen.
Yeah, that's what I love about it too. Yeah,
I love it. So that's
yeah,
Tuesday, September 7th, 1 to 2:30. It's 6 weeks. It's to get you relationship ready so that you can align and do the inner work. So you don't
yeah.
have to to me, like the worst thing about dating is the thought of getting on a dating app. If I download a dating app, I delete it within 5 hours. I can't do it. My
Really,
friends, no, I can't because these people, yeah, but maybe it's my readiness is not, my alignment is because the people that are attracted to me are like, oh no,
like,
no, no,
oh no,
no,
not that.
no,
Yeah,
no,
that
no.
I do want to say, like, I am not an expert in what I don't teach, and what I might bring someone else in to teach if it works out. Is what I don't teach is how to write an online profile. Like, I don't do that piece. There are
Yeah,
other coaches for that who can help you write your
right.
profile, who can help you choose your
I don't
pictures, who can
even
help,
wanna do that.
you know? Yeah,
I have the belief that you can meet
yeah,
because I was in great relationship with 2 wonderful men that I met walking down the street.
exactly.
One
That's
of
more
them was
my
in
style.
Westwood, one was coming out of a club. I
Yeah,
believe that God and divine order and synchronicity can put you in the right place at the right time, but you
amen.
have to be the right
Yeah,
person by
yeah,
aligning, being self-aware,
yeah,
self-loving, and all the things you're talking about, getting
yeah,
all your programs up and out, cleared so that you
yeah.
magnetize that soul that is your mate.
And you know, if believing that having to have everything cleared before you can magnetize your mate is creating pressure for you that doesn't, you know, that shrinks, that makes you feel like, oh, I can't do this, I'm never going to be. I i i love an action oriented approach where you're trying stuff, you see what works, you
Right.
see what doesn't work, you try it again, just like practice,
Yeah.
just like your paddleboard yoga practice, right? There's
Right.
times where you try a pose and you fall down,
Yeah.
and then you try a pose and you fall down, and then you try the pose and like, whoop, I stayed, but I was super, and then you try the pose and it's like, oh, I was a little more balanced this time, right? To me, relationship is just like that. You try stuff, it works, it doesn't work, you try it again, you notice what was making you waver, you work with that. I like to approach relationship like that, as a practice ground, as a place to try stuff, see what works. Because if you just do the things the way you've always done it,
Right.
nothing's going to change, right?
Right.
So the way you actually learn how to change in your relationships is by changing, by doing a different action. We don't
Ah,
think our way to
right.
change, we act our way to change.
Right.
And so that's why the group is open to folks who are dating or not dating, because I want you to be trying stuff. If you're not dating, you're going to be trying how to communicate with a friend differently, or a family member, or whoever, like if you don't have a dating partner to try stuff with. Because the idea is just to get your brain out of its habitual groove and into a new groove that actually serves you better. And to do that, you got to practice.
And it's a wonderful practice because hearing people in relationship, knowing the Joe Dispenza work that we do, that you could literally visualize yourself in the good times and even having a challenging conversation and how magically you harmoniously get through it. Even that you could visualize and bring.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
true alchemy, right? Because you're like, even
That
before
is
we
alchemy.
started, we're not just through good times and high, because no relationship is all good times. Trust me.
Oh, no, there's always going to be challenges that come up. There's always going to be days you don't feel great. There's going to be health stuff. There's going to be disappointments, work stuff. There's always going to be challenges. And so, this is one of the other things I teach is, how do you really recognize that you're on the same team and make choices that demonstrate that you're on the same team?
I love that.
Because I didn't grow up necessarily knowing that my partner would be on my team. I just
Right.
didn't have that. I just wasn't raised. I just didn't know that.
Right.
And when Patrick and I got together in the early part of our relationship, he had to remind me quite a bit. Like, we'd get into a conflict and he'd be like, I'm on your team here. And I'm like fighting to the death, you know?
Right.
And it took a long time, and still occasionally, it'll crop up and it'll be like, you do know I'm on your side, right? And I'm like, oh, right, I forgot. Right. So it's like, it again, that's a practice that has to be learned and maintained. Like, how would I respond if I knew this person was on my team? If I knew that to my core, how would I respond differently than the typical response? I may have a belief that I have to fight to be heard, or that, struggle is how I get anywhere in life. Whatever the underlying beliefs are,
Mm-hmm.
that will create a contentious environment. Whereas if you train yourself that your lover is actually on your side, if they are, of course, if they're not, that's another conversation. But
Right.
if you're with someone who loves you, they're on your side.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you relate to them as if they're on your side instead of picking a fight all the time because you think
Right.
you have to defend yourself?
I love it. And I just think that life, especially this past 18 months, has been challenging and stressful and expansive. And to have a teammate is helpful
Yeah.
that you don't have to
Yeah.
go through it by yourself. I mean, yes, we have
Yeah.
friends and platonic friendships, but it's nice to have a love that is also a teammate. And I think your relationship alchemy work in this world is so needed, especially now. It's so useful, especially now that I just bless your work. And my intention is to amplify this as much as I possibly can. I'm going to get this out to the masses because you are answered prayer for so many people. So thank you on
Mm.
behalf of everyone. I'd like to say thank you.
Oh,
I love you, friend.
thank you. I love you. It's so beautifully said. Thank you so much. You're
Yes. And
so gorgeous through and through.
mm, thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your wisdom. I'm going to go to your website right now, check out your course. And I just want to remind everyone her website is www relationship alchemy. I'm going to type it inside of the
Ooh, and
comments.
there's also a quiz. So if anyone would like to take the quiz that's there, it's called What's Your Relationship Style? And it identifies 4 stages of consciousness you tend to be in when you relate. And
Oh,
there's follow-up resources that with suggestions for how to get to the next stage and things like that. So do go, you can see it at the top of the homepage. There's a button and you can take the quiz if that's interesting to you.
ooh, love it. Yeah, I definitely want to take the quiz. And thank you
Yeah.
so much. If you're listening to this on the replay, please share this on your timelines, whether you're listening on Facebook, on YouTube, on Spotify, on SoundCloud, on Google Podcasts. I'm really grateful that you're here.
Congratulations on all the
I
platforms. It's
know. I'm so
amazing.
excited. Yes, yes, yes. So I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. Remember, if you want to get reminders of when we go live, you can text 1-866 409 4875. Keyword align, ALIGN, and you'll get a text message right at 6:15 every Tuesday to let you know we're going live. So it'll just make it easier for you. We're all about ease and grace on the Align for Success. And I'm so grateful to be of service, to share my amazing mentors, my friends, people that inspire me, like beautiful Marie Elizabeth. And I definitely hope that you go to her website, take advantage of her course if that's calling your name, because we all deserve to have someone that loves us and is on our team. Okay. So remember, everyone, with the power of synergy, anything is possible. Ciao. See you.
Ciao.